Hey guys, Khalil El Ghul here with Glasshouse Real Estate. Today I want to talk about the antitrust lawsuits that are currently going on all over the country with regards to the National Association of Realtors and basically how commissions in our industry work. You've probably seen the headlines at this point. I am getting a lot of questions with regards to what does this actually mean. So in this video today, I'm going to try to break it down for you in a way that's really easy to understand. No doublespeak, plain English. One thing about our industry and the way that we operate, it's almost purposely mysterious. We don't want anyone really looking at it too closely. That's by design. I'm going to try to break this down in a way that you know exactly how it affects you in the event that you need to buy or sell a home in the near future. And finally, I'll give my opinion. I'll tell you sort of exactly how I feel about the entire verdict. I am a part of this industry. I do belong to the National Association of Realtors. It's not really by choice. You kind of have to if you want to operate in this business. And last but not least, I'll tell you how this will change the way we operate here at Glasshouse Real Estate. All right, so the lawsuit that is making headlines is known as the Switzer case. And here's the long of the short. A group of home sellers in Missouri are suing the NAR along with several other large real estate companies, Keller Williams, Remax, Sotheby's, and several others, because they feel that the system in which commissions are paid to the listing agent and the buyer agent are fundamentally corrupt. But the question is why? It all has to do with something called cooperation compensation. Cooperation compensation is better known as buyer agency commission. If you want to sell a home using our current MLS system, you are required, up until about a few weeks ago, the rule did actually change. But before that, let's pretend like it didn't. Up until a few weeks ago, if you wanted to list your home in the MLS with an agent at one of these companies, or really any agent that belongs to the NAR, you had to pay a commission to a buyer, in addition to the commission you would pay your listing agent. It was a requisite in order to be in the MLS. How much you actually have to pay the buyer agent, whether it's a full commission or a discount commission, doesn't really matter in this case. What matters is that the system is set up in a way where if sellers don't buy into this process or don't buy into our system, and let's say they want to offer a lower commission and no commission at all, they feel like agents would steer their clients away from their home and thus cause them financial harm. And in the end, all these sellers did ultimately pay what they call was a standard commission. And that's usually anything between 2.5% to 3% of the sales price. Obviously, they weren't happy about it because now they're suing, but they are arguing that it is against their interest to pay the agent on the other side of the transaction, who they'll never meet, who doesn't work for them, and in fact, who's actually working against them. They want to see commissions completely decoupled. They only want to be responsible for paying their agent, and buyers will then be responsible for paying their agent. What the plaintiffs proved successfully, according to the jury, was that there actually is a standard commission amongst all these different real estate companies, all these different real estate agents in their respective market. It's not a coincidence that 90% of listings out there are paying 2.5% to 3% commission. In their opinion, it's price fixing. The NAR argued that commissions are negotiable. No one made them sign these listing agreements. They didn't have to offer a buyer agent commission, or at least not a full buyer agent commission. And in fact, there are other ways to sell your home should you not want to be in the MLS, like a for sale by owner, for example. But in the end, the jury ultimately disagreed. After only 3 hours of deliberation, the jury found the NAR and all these other respective companies guilty of colluding to keep commissions inflated. I followed this case really closely. I read all the testimony, I looked at all the evidence, and it was really shocking. In addition to the $1.8 billion settlement, which represents all of the commission that these sellers paid to buyer agents, the plaintiffs are also asking the judge to fundamentally alter the way the industry works. They want to eliminate the requirement that in order to practice real estate, you have to join the NAR and be beholden to their rules. In this case, the rule of having to offer a buyer agency commission to be in the MLS being the big one. They also want agents to stop saying the buyer agency is free. I've been an agent for almost 20 years. I've been screaming about this from the rooftops to whoever will listen. Buyer agency has never been free. And it is so frustrating to see so many quote unquote professionals say the complete opposite. Real estate agents have perpetually pushed this lie for as long as I can remember. The buyer agent commission is built into the sales price. There are ways to reduce that cost to a buyer. And it's exactly what we're doing here at Glass House Real Estate through buyer rebates. And last, but and definitely not least, probably the biggest consequence that these plaintiffs want to see, they want to make it illegal for a seller to have to pay the buyer agent when they sell their home. The seller will pay their agent, the buyer will pay their agent. It makes sense in so many ways, but apparently the judge in this case does not have that authority. However, there are several other lawsuits going on all across the country right now. You can call them copycat lawsuits, but in many of those lawsuits, the judges in those jurisdictions will actually have the power to actually make some of those changes. And that's when things are going to get really interesting. For the time being, it's really business as usual. The NAR is going to appeal. The biggest issue that the defendants have, the big loser in all this, according to the NAR, are home buyers. They are going to have to foot the bill for their own representation when they buy a home. And paying a 2 to 3% commission on a $500,000 home, which is the average sales price in the United States right now, it's going to be cost prohibitive for a large percentage of buyers. But here's the thing. There's no competition right now in buyer agency commission. If buyers really do ultimately end up having to pay their own agents, they are going to seek out lower cost alternatives. And that's exactly what we need. Some buyers may ultimately decide not to use a buyer agent. And I'm not saying that's a good idea. It's not something that I would ever do. But that doesn't mean that other people shouldn't have that right. We'll also probably see a lot of agents that will work by the hour. Some deals are a lot more complex and time consuming than others. And the good clients, the ones who actually transact, the ones who actually make decisions, are pre-qualified and get under contract and settle without issue. Maybe those folks shouldn't be paying the same amount as the buyers who drag their agents around for months on end, don't make competitive offers, and ultimately suck a lot of the agents' time and energy, where many actually don't ever buy a home. And the agents that actually bring value to a transaction, they're going to be just fine. They can charge whatever they want. And that's the way it should be. A brand new agent with no experience and little know-how should not automatically be paid the same amount as some of the best agents out there. And that means a lot of agents will probably leave the industry. And if you read a lot of the comments online, that's also probably a good thing. So this is an ongoing story. You're probably going to see a lot more headlines here in the future. There will definitely be a lot of big changes, and only time will tell exactly what those are. And the one thing that these lawsuits are doing is bringing attention to the way commissions work in our industry. There is just far too much fraud, waste, and abuse in commissions. There are too many hands in the pot. Let me give you a quick example to illustrate this. Let's say Johnny Appleseed buys a $750,000 home. He clicks a link on Zillow. He meets an agent at a property. The agent is quote unquote free. That agent writes the contract, gets him the home, and he settles. That agent then collects a $18,750 commission. And I'm not saying anything against the agent. I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm not speaking ill on buyer agents or realtors as a whole, because I think the good ones are worth the weight in gold. What my beef is how that commission gets distributed. So out of that $18,750, because that lead came from a Zillow or maybe some other online source, or maybe a referral from another agent across the country, they are going to pay a referral fee. And those online referral fees are usually 40%, sometimes less. But if that lead came from Zillow, that is a 40% referral fee. So now that $18,750 is $11,250. But wait, there's more. Now the broker needs to collect their fee, which is usually 20%, plus admin fees, franchise fees, marketing fees, office fees. Those are all called junk fees, by the way. And you as a buyer or seller should never pay them. So now the agent's left with $9,000. That's still not bad. You do a couple of those a month, that's a really nice career. But there's more. The person who actually paid for that lead from Zillow are usually team leaders. And the agents that are usually working those buyer leads are buyer agents. So when you work with an agent who's under a team, that team leader then collects a 25 to 50% referral fee. So the agent who actually did the deal, who probably needed it the most, either because they're new in the industry or don't have a lot of experience, ends up with a little less than $7,000. Now you tell me how that is good for the consumer. Why is the seller on the hook to pay Zillow, to pay the broker, to pay the team leader, if it's not something they signed up for initially? And that's why I'm able to do what I do here. As an independent broker, I've simply eliminated all of that waste. We lowered our costs and passed those savings on to our consumer. And these new rules come down prohibiting cooperative compensation, just sort of these blanket offers of commission, the cost of buying and selling a home will also come down. I think it's a huge win. I'm super excited. I think it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to make business models like mine look more attractive, frankly, because we're more affordable. I didn't say less profitable. We're more affordable. Many of these real estate companies are barely profitable now. So a lot of them won't make it, or at least a lot of these agents won't make it. And many of these other companies can't say the same. So something's going to fundamentally have to change. We will probably see far less agents in the business, which will allow better agents to do more transactions and hopefully charge a little less. This is all a developing story. I mean, things are changing really, really fast. There are several cases playing out in court right now. There will be an appeal. There are a lot of unknowns, but in the end, I'm optimistic. I really think that this is a tipping point, that this is where things will start to change and for the better. Now, most of my peers will not agree with me, and that's okay. I've always been an outsider. I probably always will be. But if you have any other questions, if you want to know how this sort of relates to your unique situation, or if there is anything at all I can help you with, please feel free to reach out to me. All my contact information is below. Thanks, and have a great day.